trying to keep all this weight right here.
Yeah.
And we're going to shorten the top, but keep the sides thicker, which is going to give us like an all-over rounded, thick, bushy look with a sharp blend that's kind of like almost bowl cut-ish kind of. Right?
That's what I'm looking for, yeah.
All right.
So we're going to start by trimming the top of his hair down about 1/2 inch. We're going to do a 90-degree cut all the way across the top. And then after this, we're going to skip straight to texturizing the top. But this video is not about texturizing or learning how to trim hair on top. We are focused on 2 different types of fading here. So we're going to skip ahead here and we're going to go straight to where I already did a 1.5 on the side and I put our bald line in. So don't forget, we want to texturize this top, and you can see we flip them shears upside down and chop away at them tips. But we're going to skip ahead of this fade, and I'm going to show you 2 different ways to bald fade.
All right, so we work this area through here with our 1.5 guard, and then we put our bald line in. So our first step after our bald line is we're going to go no guard open here, and we're just going to create a little bit of space above this bald line, probably about 1/4 inch above it. You can see I'm just holding this blade flat to the head, doing short little strokes, never taking the blade off, and using the whole length of the blade to cover more ground, and really just work this line up just a little bit. So now that we worked it up a little bit, we're going to lower our blade just a little bit more, and we're going to stretch the skin so we can see. And look, once we stretch this, we're able to see a lot more right here, and we have a lot more space to work, which is going to take out the stress in getting this bald line out. So that didn't get it out, so we're going to lower it a little bit more and work our way around here. Now that we know this is the length that gets it out, we just continue this down. You can see I'm only using the corner of this blade right here, just trying to etch away at this line. So right here, we don't have a lot of space, so we can open back up and we can create a little bit more space for us to work, and then go back to where we were and get that bald line out. So we got our bald line out here, and now we're going to work with our 1 guard here. So we're going to go 1 guard all the way open, and we're going to try to just extend this up another 1/4 inch. So the same thing we did, but with a 1 guard open on. And what this is going to do is it's going to clear out some space here for us to get this heavy line out. If you remember though, the customer wants to keep this heavy weight here in the ridge. So we're trying to keep this very tight right here, and we're trying to keep all this bulk right here. So this is going to be a difficult blend, great for a tutorial. See, I'm just kind of flicking up and off the head, just kind of scooping that little bit of hair off the ridge. You don't want to dig in here and hold this blade flat. You want to kind of put the pressure on the back of the blade. So if you kind of just put the pressure on the back and just rock it up here lightly. You don't want to press hard. You can see I'm barely holding this clipper. I'm just lightly holding it. So once we do that around, we can come back through it, and now we can close this 1 guard and we could try to etch away this heavy line. When you're working in really tight spaces like this, you want to only use the corner of the blade. So you can see I'm just barely etching away with just that 1 little tooth, trying not to go up too high, and you can see that almost gets that line out instantly right there. We're just going to work our way down. So any marks that we make above it, you can see here, we got a little mark here, a little mark there. We're going to open that up all the way again, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to kind of etch away at those marks that we made. It really is kind of like sketching and painting. So don't be scared. If you see a mark in someone's head and there's a little spot right there, try to guess what clipper guard it is, and just go in with just that 1 little spot and try to get it out. It's just like a picture. If you have 1 little messed up spot, you need to fade it in a little bit more right there. You don't need the whole width of the blade. doing the whole width of the blade everywhere, you're going to cut too much hair in spots you shouldn't be cutting. So make sure that you really focus on only using a quarter of your fading blade when you're bald fading or fading in general at all. I'd say 75% of the time, all I'm doing is using the corner of the blade. So you can see here, we scrubbed this really nicely with a 1. So our original heavy bald line is almost faded out. So what can happen here is you can end up trying to take the remaining weight out and end up pushing this up too high and really messing your fade up. So you really want to be careful. So whenever you go to the next step, which is a 16th, you're going to open the 16th up all the way first. So we're going to open it up all the way, and we're just going to etch where this little bit of weight is and see what it does. And you can see in the front here, it pretty much blended it already. And that usually occurs in the front because it's easier to blend in the front, and the line comes out easier right here compared to right here. And the reason that is because on the back of people's heads, every single person has these bones back here, which causes divots. And you got to remember, you're cutting on a 3D surface. This isn't just a drawing on a wall right here. So every little divot is going to make marks, and you can't expect your fade to be perfect everywhere. But up here, it can be perfect. It can be smooth because we have a nice flat surface. So as you get to the back of the head, it's harder to get these lines out because you're walking around on a really rough surface. So we're going to go back to open, and we're just going to scrub here. So in the front, it got that out instantly, but we're going to see that open here in the back is not going to get it out. So we're going to stretch this skin to create more space. And you can see it did not get it out. We still have a heavy line, so we're going to lower that a little bit and see if that gets it. This is really a guess and check method, and really when you first start cutting hair, everything's a guess and check method. That's the fun of learning. So don't be scared to guess, check, try something. Learn your clipper guards. You can see that got it out a lot better, but there's still a little bit of weight in there. So you can see how much more difficult it was to get this line out back here on this area compared to this front area. This took 1 second. So don't be concerned whenever you can't get your bald line out on the back of the neck here. Usually if this 16th don't get it out, you can take your 16th off. You can open it up all the way and try that, or even lower it a little bit more and try to get that. That's literally how hard it is to get it off in that area. All right, so we got a nice little bald fade. Now what we need to do is we need to blend this up in, but we don't want to blend it too much because we're trying to keep all this weight here. So we're going to clipper over comb this with our flat top comb, and we're going to really try to just connect it and not go too high up. All right, so we're going to take our flat top comb. We're going to put pressure on the front of the comb here, and we're going to use the front of this comb to try to connect this two area up into this thicker ridge right here. So we're really trying to scoop in here and then pull it out. And you can see how much my comb's bending here. It's because I'm putting all this pressure on the center point. So you really want to scoop in that center, bend that. Let's say like we just had a spot right there that we want to get out. See that little spot I just made? Instead of using this whole comb, we might just want to use this little area. So you got to realize you can use different parts of your comb. So we can just use, let's say, this front section, and we're going to connect from the bottom of the comb up into the top here like this. So now we only use a quarter of our comb, which lets us be in control of that section more than if you were using this whole comb. So try to focus. Same thing with fading. You want to focus on just the corner of the blade. Same thing with the comb. You want to just focus on little sections of the comb where you're blending. So on the other side of the head, we started by doing a 2 guard and a 1.5, and then we put our bald line in, and we kind of took this weight out through here first. But if you watch people cut hair online, they always put the bald line in first, and they leave all this weight up. So on this cut, we're going to try 2 different ways of cutting, that way and this way. So we're going to start with our bald line, put that in, and then just keep working that line up, still trying to remember to leave this weight in the ridge like we did on the other side. So we got our bald line in here, and the next step, what we did on the other side was no guard open next. So we're just going to follow those same steps we did on the other side, but on this side we didn't take the weight out first. So once again, we're just making this little 1/4 inch area above our bald line. You can see from there to there, that little bit of space. Now we're going to lower this about halfway. We're only going to etch where that bald line is. Barely going up above it. Really, you're just straddling that line. You're not trying to go above the line. So that almost got it out. We'll lower it just a little bit more. It should get it out easily. It does. So back to open, we're going to create some more space. And the reason we want to create more space right here is because if you remember on the other side, this was the problem area, and this is where it was harder to get that bald line out. So we're going to create a little bit more space here. Lower this, and it should get it out pretty quickly. So as you continue to cut hair, you have to learn from your mistakes, just like in life. If you go down a bumpy road on the other side, it's the same road. Do the same exact thing. If you forget, then spin your guy around and look at what you already did and what the shape was, and try to remember that and replicate it on the other side. So once again, it was really easy to get out in the front, but harder in the back. That's a common problem that you're always going to run into when you're giving bald fades on people. All right, so after we got that bald line out, we just want to check to see if there's any remaining bald line, which I think it looks pretty good. So we're going to move to our 1 guard open, which is the same thing we did on the other side. But on this side now, you can see we have all this weight hanging over right here, which for me, I think it's harder for the clippers to cut through that weight, and you can't really see as good because there's so much weight. So I like cutting the other way, but I wanted to show you guys both ways. So you can see here, we're kind of really just trying to flick this out and not go up in, because we're not really sure what's under all this weight because we left it. So I'm doing this kind of scoop method. Angling my clipper down in and then scooping out. Because I'm not trying to go too high up, because remember, we're trying to keep this weight in this ridge. This way seems a lot more dangerous to me. I don't really know what's going on here. I'm kind of just, and like, look how sloppy that looks already. It's harder to be consistent because of all the weight that's present above our line already. So far, I already hate this side compared to the other side. The other side was like, I loved it. There we go. You can see he had this little divot in his head right here. I had to really dig this clipper in there to try to get that hair shorter. Because what happens is, if there's like a divot in somebody's head, the hair that's at the bottom of that hole is going to be as long as the hole is deep, if that makes sense. So that hair is actually longer down in that divot. Even though it might be flat to touch, it's longer because there's a divot there, which creates a darker spot in the head. Which means you have to really get in these divots and these marks and these creases in the people's heads where the hair is not the right length. That was an in-depth analysis there.
I visualized that exactly what you're saying.
Did you?
Yeah.
Now we're going to go to our 1.5 guard, and we're going to try to just kind of rock this one out. So we're going to go back to that same motion of kind of just scooping and flicking, trying to rock this out without taking too much weight out. I'm scared. Just a little bit. Now you can see this is a vicious motion. It's a vicious rock right here. If you're just beginning, this is not a motion that you're comfortable with. So what do? You fade like the other side. You buzz all this down first with your 2. You get a nice base. and then you can see everything you're doing step by step. Why do you want to work in the dark? You know, so really pay attention and go back in the video and replay how we did the other side compared to this side, because it's a big difference on how easy it is compared to how difficult this side is. All right, so now all we have left is this little bit of jaggedy weight that's through here. So we're going to go 16th all the way open, close it just a little bit, and see what this does back here. If you remember on the other side of the head, we had to close it all the way to get this line out. So we're going to see if that is true on this side as well. And it's looking like it will be. So we're going to just close it all the way because we already know. And we're going to get this line out. So as you can see, the first time around, it's a guess and check method. But after you know, you're not guessing and checking no more. You know exactly what's going to get that line out. And then the next time you cut him, you know. And the next time you cut someone else, you know. And eventually you build up this library of things you know, and hair cutting becomes easier. So we're being very careful, working from open. Doing that same scoop. So if you notice, I do this same like dig and scoop method whenever I'm not trying to put weight in. Whenever I'm scared to put weight in above the line is when I do this scoop method. But whenever I'm trying to get lines out, I do this scrub method. So there's two different types of scrubs depending on where you're at in your bald fade and your line. And you want to be careful. So you can see every time I'm doing these long little flick strokes, it's because I'm just trying to blend up in without taking weight out. So you want to really work on both of those types of strokes, because you got to have different strokes to your game or shit can get real boring. Ask your old lady.
Different strokes for different folks.
So all I see is this one little hair right here, this one little spot. So we're just going to try to etch this out. It literally looks like one hair. Oh, it was. Look, one single hair. So when I tell you every hair matters, it does. So when we're doing this, we're not going up in. We don't want to cut at the top of this comb. A lot of people make the mistake of using this whole thing right here and like putting the whole clipper across the whole comb. And what happens is you end up cutting too high up into here. So you have to remember where your focus point is, and it's right here. So right when I get to here, I kind of pull the comb out a little bit so that I don't cut the top. And that's something that it really takes a lot of practice and time. This is one of the most difficult parts about cutting hair, is clipper over combing. Good luck. Okay, so this is where all the weight is on this ridge, right? All this weight right here. As long as you keep this comb under this weight right here, and you kind of just angle it up and out, you're not going to affect this weight. And that's the angle that you have to keep whenever you're blending. You have to think of like coming up underneath of a roof and like kind of just like staying under the gutter. You don't want to come outside of that. You want to just stay under that little gutter. And that's going to blend that perfectly for you without ever making marks above it. All right, so one thing we did forget is on this side here, we did not line him up yet. Now on the other side, we lined him up first. So this would have been done on the other side already. But we didn't do that because there was too much hair. It was too long to line up at first. So now we're going to check this hair in the front, because this is a major tip that you're going to run across on a ton of people. And that is this area in the front of the head right here. This hair is always longer. You will always miss this hair for some reason. And this hair is always finer and kind of straggly. So it's harder to cut. So whenever you're cutting straight hair like this, always check this front bang. And you could do this by doing a little clipper over comb. So we're going to hold this same angle up and out, putting pressure in the center of the comb, and just clipper over combing this hair that's hanging over his lineup right here. You can't line him up if that hair is too long, because it's going to move around. See how much movement we have right here? That movement is going to determine whether or not your lineup is crispy or not. So you don't want too much movement, so the hair has to be at the right length. This is the perfect length right here, and you can see why, because the lineup, look at that, it's so crispy so quick. And I didn't do anything special. The reason it's so crispy so quick is because the lineup length in that area is at the perfect length for it to be dark and crispy. So remember, when you're lining people up, no matter what the hair type, the length in which the lineup is in that area is going to determine how crispy and how long it lasts. So pay attention to the movement in the hair when you're giving out lineups. You can't have too much movement. All right, so we're going for this European short textured look. So we're going to use some of this LA styling powder, and you can buy this on my website. Check it out. This is good stuff. It's for dry texture and to add volume. So you can see what it's looking like right now. We're going to sprinkle some of this in like this. That's why we call it that powder. And once we sprinkle that in, all you really want to do is start working this through by like kind of scrunching the hair. So you can kind of just work this in whatever way you feel is fit and add as you need. If you feel like the back needs a little more, you can sprinkle some in as you need. So once you kind of work that through the hair, you can then, he wants his sides kind of blown out. So we're going to kind of like fluff these sides out. And then you can kind of just grab this hair and do what you want with it. It's going to create the texture whichever way you want.
That's it.
Yeah, kind of like this puffy.
Yeah.
Like this. Yeah, that looks good.
That powder smells really good.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Inside the goatee.
Yeah, that looks good to me.
You get
Oh,
this
yeah.
cut out too.